Okay, let's call this meeting to order. City of North Kansas City, Missouri, regular council meeting and motion to close part of the meeting, July 16th, 2019. Could we have a moment of silence? Approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public comments?
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and most of you I know, but I'm Pat Stedham. I live at 1018 East 24th Avenue, and this is almost embarrassing for me because I'm going to read. Those of you that know me, there's no way I'm going to talk in 5 minutes. This is for the best for both of us. Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Pat Stedham. My wife and Deb and I built a new house in the Avenues about 18 months ago. I think it's the first new house in there, at least since probably the 60s, maybe. I know when we got building permits, they were having troubles finding documentation. But anyway, I will tell you that family and friends questioned why we would be investing the kind of money we invested in a neighborhood that looks okay most of the time. But we had an abandoned house behind us. We had an abandoned house a couple of houses down. So there were some questioning of our decision-making. What they didn't know is that we had had 3 years of research on your city. I was blessed enough 5 years ago to be the original instructor for the Northland CAPS program. And being in that position gave me access to all 7 cities in Clay County. We did projects with them. The first time I met the mayor and Eric, and I think Tom even, was during a Northland CAPS presentation on business retention that we did 5 years ago. So I had access as Deb and I were trying to decide where to retire. We had already looked at Woodside and Waldo and Eastern Jackson County where we were living. I had really good insight to the cities up here. And I just want to let you know that when it comes to amenities, and that was kind of raised in a meeting a few weeks ago about North Kansas City, we win hands down. Mayor, you even said that night. Nobody brought up a grocery store, so I won't bring it up. But besides that, we win in every category, no matter how you do this. And when you start looking for retirement and what this city has to offer, the transportation, well, it's flat. For those of us that don't walk real well anymore or ride, it's flat. So it also has a community feel. We came down here for your garage sales. We came down for events. We brought our dogs down and walked neighborhoods. People sit on their porches. They will talk to you. This is one of the most open, welcoming communities you can find. And I bring that up tonight because last week there was a person who presented to you guys describing an area here in the city that I'm very familiar with. It's an empty lot at the end of Knox and 25th. I'm very familiar with it because I'm in it every single day, at least once, sometimes twice. I do want to give you something. I know this sometimes helps. Some of you have seen this. I've seen pictures.
It's a good-looking dog.
As I said, I walk a couple of times a day. In fact, I tell people I walk 5 miles twice a day. That's not true. My dog is named 5 Miles. But truthfully, I do go out in the city. The dog is Susie. And Susie and I walk all over this city. I've been doing it since we moved here. I shared with Kim after her great EDC, or Economic Development presentation, I showed you some of the pictures. I use this for recruitment. We have moved my mother-in-law here. My nurse has moved here. My son is looking at a house on 24th down the street. I got 2 friends approaching retirement. I promote this city left and right all day long. I work for the North Kansas City School District as a consultant. I work for the North Kansas City Business Council as a consultant. I work for the Kansas City Career Construction Academy as a consultant. Everything I do, in fact, I have a card. If you like my business card, my title is Supporter of All Things North Kansas City. My point is, you guys have done an exceptional job in what's happened over the last 3 years that I've actually been in here. There was no gamble. I had access to One North before it was announced publicly. My kids worked on Rock KC, they worked on iWorks, so I knew what I was getting into here. My concern over the statements last week about a description of an area being full of waste and smelling and things is not true to my knowledge. That's all I'll say. I cannot address issues with people being behind houses at night. That would bother me and I would not be happy. But city property, which there's lots of it here, believe it or not, it doesn't seem like from the air. I walk Caboose Park. I walk Richards Park on a regular basis when I go get my postal stuff. This city's clean. It's an unbelievably clean city. Thank you for having trash cans out. I know some people don't like those, but to me it says, come out, be a part of the city. I just don't want to end up looking at putting in fences, putting in signs saying no to this or no to that. I think he'll change it. But this is not just an opinion. After I saw the presentation last week, I spent the last 13 days walking up and down that piece of property. By the way, if you fenced it in, you'd keep the deer out because there's deer scatting there also. But even signage concerns me. I don't see it as a problem from a standpoint of waste. If there's other problems, I understand. But it's not a waste problem in any form or fashion. I have all this tracked on GPS. I actually have a form I could give you. I was hoping if you want it, I'll be glad to give it before the night. I can show you every time I've walked that property over 20 times in the last 13 days. Just to put it in perspective, on July 4th, there was a small dog waste pile. And this morning, there was one, and it was right by the sidewalk, which you're not going to stop if you put a sign up there anyway. People, let that happen. So please do your due diligence on any kind of requests like this and make sure we got all the facts moving forward. Thank you. Question?
Eric?
Staff was going to address Mr. Knox's. It was Mr. Burton Knox who made comments last meeting. We can do that now if you would like, or we can hold those until later. It's up to you. But we were prepared to offer suggestions to the council about this. Would you like us to proceed with that now, sir, or would you like it since it's come up?
Yeah, well, let's go ahead.
Okay. Well, so the area in question is.
I need to sit down.
You may. Thank you.
Okay.
The area in question, we have it up on your screens, and the area in question, I want to thank our Assistant City Administrator for putting this together. The area in question is outlined in red. So you see there, the area in blue is school district property. The area in yellow is Mr. Knox's property. He spoke to you last week. And then the area that Mr. Knox was concerned about is right next to his house. Staff has not tried to confirm whether or not there really is a problem, but that Mr. Knox stated that people walk their dogs in the areas, don't pick up the feces. He stated that some people gather after dark there. He asked the city to look into putting up some signs in the area, that it's open to the public, also signs stating no dogs allowed, and with times that it would be open to the public. So we said we would look into it and offer perhaps some options. So the area there in red is again, the area that we understand he's speaking of. It is city property. It's kind of an unusual thing, but about the 3/4 of the track there above it is city property, and about 1/4 of it is school district property. The line kind of runs up from where the blue line is, and the blue line meets the red on this picture. So in terms of, so all that area, and then the area behind the houses is also city property. Our assumption, if there is a problem, is that anyone that may be coming to that area and using it as a dog relief area and not picking up after their dog was probably coming from the neighborhood to the south and from the avenues. An option might be, if you wanted, would be maybe to fence the area that we've circled on there, just the area fronting 25th. We wouldn't propose to fence in the entire area that's city property there, but that probably would have the effect of keeping folks who are coming into that area from the south and using it for whatever purposes. It would probably go a long way to keeping folks out. We could also put up signs if you like. I'm also told that at one time there was a dog bag container. I guess my thought about that is, this isn't, it is city property. It's not really an area we would call parkland, where we were trying to necessarily attract folks. I don't know that you want to put that back, and then we'd have to maintain it and keep it filled if we were to put some kind of container like that back. And we could also look at signs that could say no dogs, or it could say please clean up after your dog. Or if you wanted to take a stronger action, you could look at fencing it there on just on East 25th, and we could put up like a black vinyl fence. The school district property is fenced, Mr. Knox's property is fenced, so it would have the effect of probably keeping people out of that area from the south. So if you have any direction you'd like to provide to us, those are some of the thoughts that we have as the possible options.
Well, the problem being, and it's not for responsible people, and like you and your dog, we had the same problem. I got calls from a dog organization that stops in Northtown once in a while and uses our dog park. And they called and told me that nobody, but the park is dog park itself is full of feces. And the bark board will tell you the same thing, I think. People aren't picking up after their dogs. And this area is not a dog park. We had the same problem, I think, in the vacant lot north of that restaurant that closed.
Ruby Tuesdays?
Ruby Tuesday, that area there. All the seniors come over. I don't know all of them, but I go drive by there a lot of times. The dogs are out there, and I don't see any baggies around. And I think people have mentioned that area before. People just aren't picking up after their dogs. And I can see where the gentleman living there would get tired of it if it is a problem. I live right around the corner. I see dogs in there occasionally. I don't know what's the right thing to do. I agree that I don't like putting things fenced in and unwelcoming type feeling, but what are you going to do with these dog owners that won't pick up after their dogs? It's the same problem in Mackin Park, even though we built them a park on 32nd Street. They're not picking up there. And there's a sign there. So the signs don't work. So, I mean, I'm not saying I know what to do about it. It's just that I can understand what he would get tired of it. And he did have a video of people going in there, and we saw that. I don't know what the right answer is, but I can understand his frustration with the people, and it's no doubt it's the people in the avenues, doing it. I don't think anybody come from out of town just to walk down that strip of land. One video showed a lady coming down Knox with her dog straight to that park. Our park is not a park, straight to that vacant land. So if you can't keep people from picking up if you can't make people pick up after the dog, what choice would you have but not put up a fence? I don't know. Huh? Sure.
Just one other thing that, Rick was saying. As far as the area, staff had mentioned that they had not gone out and checked the area. I can certainly sympathize with the property owner. But I mean, with owners picking up for dogs, I mean, I don't have a dog, but I'm going to be dog sitting this weekend. And my niece, she brings me over my dog baggies and everything like that, and I carry them with me. So you're supposed to pick up it. I mean, if you could have it anywhere, if you're walking your dog anywhere in the avenues, it could go anywhere. And as long as you pick it up, it's okay. But if you don't, that's the issue. And that's on the owners. But I can certainly sympathize with the property owner. But I mean, what concerns me is that, we need to see if it's an issue. One person says it is, one person says it isn't. Let's have staff go out there and check it as well. That's just my opinion. Sorry to interrupt, Pat.
Councilman Rick, I'm assuming, I'm not assuming, I said hello to him when he was filming, and I also commented to him, you noticed there was no poop.
Was that you in the video?
That's me.
I did notice that.
I gave you the dog. That's what I figured you'd put together when you saw the dog.
The video wasn't that good.
I saw it. Well, yeah. I don't ever run into anybody else in there with a dog, which is another reason I go there, because it is a safe place for me and my dog to walk. But because I saw someone approaching, I stayed back and watched to see that she didn't let her dog, because that would really blow my argument. And I stayed there and watched her cut through there to get to the back of the property, and she was headed over to the park, which I do see people do that from time to time. To the point of putting up the signs with the bag waste. Again, I'm going to give you this because he'll explain it lots easier than me.
That dog gets around, I'll have to say that.
Well, thank you, because I've lost 7 pounds since it started. I'm walking more than normal. This is a snapshot of, like I said, I use a GPS. And at the top there, you can see my walking pattern. Where you see where it looks like it's colored in, that is me literally walking back and forth on those lots, both ways, looking for waste. I did it there. I did Memorial Park because I see people in there with their dogs. I did it at Richards Park because, as I said, I cross over there when I go get my mail. And then my favorite one, which I would never take my dog to, is Caboose Park. Caboose Park and Richard Parks both have waste baggage areas in them. And they by far have the most waste in their parks. The person we spoke of, the neighbor, called animal control on me one day. And so I hung around to talk to animal control. And his first suggestion is, I will get a waste bag put here. And I said, as soon as you do it, you're given a green light to become a dog park. Please don't do that. The other thing is, as I said, I don't go there every day twice, but I'm usually there once a day. My dog usually does his stuff before I take him there. It's just to get out, and it's give me a chance to talk to neighbors. The dog is a great conversational piece. And I go downtown. Wherever I go, I get to visit with the people here in town. It's like people complaining about children, our students throwing trash down. If that's what you want to focus on, great. But I walk those neighborhoods. Our city is pretty darn clean. I'm going to keep saying that. And if you want to really figure out about waste, I do a little survey on that too. Small airplane whiskey bottles and cigarette butts. I don't think that's our kids. I hope it's not. But that's the biggest amount of waste I see when I'm walking my dog is those liquor bottles things. That's a whole different problem. But on here, I did some fencing numbers for you because my GPS will do it for you. And then on the back, I actually gave you a list of what I've dealt with this week. I knew the city wasn't checking on the place because there was a dead rabbit laying there. I left it there for 3 days, and then it was beginning to fall apart, so I went on and picked it up. The other thing I do when I'm in that park is I pick up my dog's poop if he does, and I also pick up anything else in there. All right. It's the cleanest place in town. I'm not taking her over there to use the bathroom. I take her over there because it's a place where she can kind of frolic a little. So I did put some stuff. Memorial Park stays clean. Richards, not so much. Caboose is the biggest problem you have. So my fear is if we start putting signs and fences up based on truth, we got a whole lot more signage and fencing that's going to have to go up. If we're going to do it based on, one situation. What I was going to ask you about the video, just curious, and maybe, again, you just said it wasn't real good. I would have loved to have known if either my dog or the other one did anything because I know they didn't. So
I didn't see it.
Okay.
No, no.
I was going to say,
I think we need to move on.
Thank you.
We want to get out of here sometime tonight. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
I have one thing I want to say, though, because of the comments that Councilmember Stewart said about the dog park. I actually am at the dog park every day. I don't see a big problem with that. I understand if you're talking to people who do see a big problem with that. Honestly, I think that about 98% of people pick up their dog poop at the park. And if they don't, there's some social pressure to do that, and they will then go and pick it up. And if they don't, someone else will. So I don't see a big problem at the dog park. I just wanted to state that from my perspective.
Maybe it's improved, but the incident I'm talking about, the park board agreed with me. They said it was terrible that during that period of time.
Yeah, maybe it's better now, but I don't have a problem with it.
Eric, do we need a decision here?
We'll await any direction you may want to provide us, but no, I don't need a decision from you.
Why don't we just wait and see what happens?
We'll wait for any further council member comment on this.
Okay.
I'll send Zach down twice a day to check on it.
I poop in there, I'll pick it up, I promise.
Consent agenda.
We did that already, I think.
Did we?
No, we haven't
No.
done it. We approved
Suppose
it.
there's no more comments from the public?
Oh, any more comments from the public? Moving on.
I move that the consent agenda be approved as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First Amendment to Development Agreement with 18th and Swift LLC, extension of deadlines. Bill number 7420, ordinance number 9217.
Eric?
Thanks, sir. On January 15th, the City Council approved a development agreement with 18th and Swift LLC, which is affiliated with the Sunflower Development Group, for the redevelopment of the city-owned parking lot at 18th and Swift. The development agreement that we entered into called for the project's development plan to be submitted to the city for approval by the Planning Commission and Council within 180 days. We're at that 180 day deadline tonight. Some of the tasks that Sunflower or 18th and Swift LLC has to perform have taken a little bit longer than they had originally anticipated, and that in terms has led to slower progress than had been anticipated on the project, and so they have not been able to get us that development plan. They are making progress toward commencing construction, and they have submitted a development schedule to the staff that shows a proposed timeline for the project that anticipates completing that development plan in October, with final construction plans complete in December, and showing for a construction start in February of next year. So before you, for your consideration, is a First Amendment that allows for those extensions of time to occur, and staff does recommend it. I know that I think Mark Moberly from Sunflower is here. If you have any questions of the developer, we would recommend going ahead and entering into this First Amendment, extending those deadlines.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance approving First Amendment to Development Agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and 18th and Swift LLC regarding mixed-use development in the city.
I move the bill number 7420 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9217.
Second.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance approving First Amendment to Development Agreement between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri and 18th and Swift LLC regarding mixed-use development in the city.
Okay. Number 10, I guess.
Lease agreement with Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission for Gateway Park area, Bill number 7419, ordinance number 9216.
Harry?
Thank you, sir. The open space at the corner of 10th Avenue in Burlington is a key gateway into our city. It's a longtime home of the city's existing gateway signage. Some of that area is right-of-way, city right-of-way, but most of it belongs to what is commonly known as MoDOT, the Missouri Department of Transportation, which is governed by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. Earlier this year, Mayor Stilo expressed to staff an interest in improving some of that open space in this area to create a shaded seating area to the very south. There are folks who congregate there at times, and the idea would be maybe to give them a place to congregate that would be a little bit further out of sight, provide some shade and a place to sit for them. There are groups which come in and feed folks who do congregate there on a daily basis, and so the thought would just be to maybe move them a little bit further away from that gateway signage. To facilitate this area, to call it a gateway park, the MHTC has agreed to lease it to the city at no cost, and so it's taken a while for us to get to this point, but if you do agree to this lease tonight, then we would move forward to place some shade structures and move some existing tables that we have over in that direction to create this area. So we do recommend approval of this lease agreement to you.
I just have a quick question. Have we talked to the businesses around there, the dance studio, other businesses? Are they aware of this plan? And if not, can we discuss with them?
We can. I'm not aware that we have, no, ma'am.
Okay, I mean, I'm fine moving forward with this, but I would like us to talk with the
Before we
businesses around
equip it?
there. Yeah.
Okay, understood.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
An ordinance adopting and approving a lease of premises by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri as lessee and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission as lessor for the lease of a certain property for Gateway Park area in the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
I move the bill number 7419 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9216.
Second.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting and approving a lease of premises by and between the City of North Kansas City, Missouri as lessee and the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission as lessor for the lease of a certain property for Gateway Park area in the City of North Kansas City, Missouri.
A quick question. Say, if this didn't work out, we can just abandon it, can't we? I mean, we could
Yes, sir.
quit, you know, I mean.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay, 11.
Right, by that you mean remove the equipment
Yeah.
that's there. Yes, sir, we can do that.
Number 11, budget amendment, emergency water repairs, Armor Road, Resolution 19-046.
Eric?
Thank you, sir. I'll turn this item over to the Public Works Director, Pat Hopper.
Thank you. Before I address the need for a budget amendment, I wanted to give the council an update on construction that occurred on Sunday. It was planned with Kissick Construction. The cost was going to be $110,000 at the maximum. They started at 4 in the morning, and things didn't go too well. We couldn't isolate the valves, and all the plans in the world with expertise out there, we struggled. So water was down from 5.5 to 6 hours along Clay and Swift and Burlington, including the car wash there. But finally, we got it back at around 2 o'clock. Meanwhile, during that rush to go around and try to isolate the valves so we could do the repairs, four different valves did not shut off and were broken. Right now, I think you saw it 23rd and Swift. We've got the road shut. They're finishing up tomorrow, the paving it and opening it back up. But that's where we broke that valve pretty bad, just trying to shut it. And so we have 2 more that are going to be done by staff beginning tomorrow at 23rd and Clay. So that's just kind of an update.
May I interject for a moment, Pat? My understanding is, if you're wondering why is this happening with all of our valves, perhaps some insight from the fact that all of the valves that we did remove, that were intended to remove, were what, 1954?
Yes,
They're old,
in the 50s.
and it's coming to roost for us.
Let me ask on that, though. Do we have a plan going forward? I mean, this is serious.
We
You
are
keep having
working,
these issues.
yes.
Are we accelerating this, or are we really
We-
pushing to get this done
I am
now?
working with the Public Works Department to get a plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we have a plan? I know we don't have one now. Do we have a plan in motion to start exercising all these valves?
The problem with exercise them is when we exercise them, most of them are breaking on us, and then you have an immediate emergency. But we are working on a plan, an valve exercising plan, which we started last year on a few. But we need to really plan for it, and we're
But I mean,
doing so.
If the valves have been there since the 50s and they've never been exercised, I can understand why they break.
Yes.
Yes.
Because there's never been a plan, but if we set forth a plan and start exercising the ones that don't break, then we shouldn't have a problem down the road.
You're absolutely right.
The newer valves.
And we do
newer
have a valve exercising machine, and we do, once we have valves that work, need to exercise them regularly. You're correct. It is something that Pat and I have talked about quite a bit in the past, and certainly in the very recent past, and it is something that we will do. So as to looking at the valves that are we prioritizing valve replacement over the next however many years in order to get ourselves a decently modern system, we need to do that, and then we need to keep it exercised. Both of those things are true.
Do we have good track of where all the valves are now and how old they are? Are we searching for, are we finding these as they break, or what's?
Well, last year we began, 2 years actually, we began phase 1 of the valve issue, the exercising program, by finding, and discovering, and putting them on maps, every valve that we could. Every valve on the map. A lot of them were under the pavement. We brought them up to grade. A lot of them were buried, and then we mapped them. And we're still working on mapping them. So that was phase 1. We were short 2 people most of the time for the last 2 years, but we are moving forward. It's going to be a multi-year program, to move forward with that.
Thank you.
Are we concerned with the condition of the pipes as well now, with the valves being that old? I imagine the pipes are too, and do they have a useful life that's kind of running low?
Well, staff has had some discussions about that, but right now we're focusing on the the valves and replacing them, and we're starting with the major ones that could cause major problems.
We did have a study done 2008 that looked at that, and in general, I think our system is in pretty good shape. At times, some capacity improvements were suggested by the engineering firm Ernst & McDonald that looked at it, but I don't think they were. Of course, you don't always know till they break, and then you get in under, you dig them up, and then you see. But they didn't seem overly concerned about condition. Is that correct, Pat?
That's correct, but we all know that there are some really old areas, pipes that break more than other areas. So at least the good news is that we repaired 6 valves, and most importantly, 2 of them were in front of the water plant, and now we can shut down Armour Road now without, so that we did accomplish quite a bit. And these valves that broke are small valves that we can do mainly in-house. So getting back to the budget amendment, with the $110,000 cost estimate, the water budget included $120,000 for emergency water repairs, and the current balance of the account is $37,447, which includes $40,000 of invoices that we already know are coming in. Staff recommends the approval of a budget amendment of $150,000 to fund the water replacement valve project, and to increase the current balance of the fund by $77,447. Resolution has been prepared for this. Pardon me.
Question? On any of these budget amendments, we're estimating the cost, and if it goes over, we understand we have to come back with another budget amendment. If it's under, then the funds that are not used are rolled back into the fund that they came from, is that correct?
That's right.
And I'll just be up front with you that we're going to be coming back probably for another budget amendment because the costs exceeded what we thought it would. We had to buy water from Kansas City. It was very expensive.
On top of that, we're losing a lot of water through this too. I mean, so water's leaving the pump station and just like that last one when it was all out on Armour Road over there. So do you have any idea how much water we lost through that?
When we're searching for valves and trying to shut them off, we have crews in different locations trying to shut off valves. We have to run the fire hydrants to determine if they're shutting off. Otherwise, we would have maybe, if everything went right, we wouldn't have had to tap into Kansas City.
Thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right.
19th Avenue Pump Station.
Thank you, sir. Well, another money item, but this one is optional, but we do want to throw some options to you. So the project that we had called the Spine Road project, which is construction of the main road through the Armour Road redevelopment area, the road that we now call Diamond Parkway, along with some other improvements all along the Spine Road, is nearly complete. For almost intents and purposes, it is, but there are a couple of items that are still outstanding. The main one being that the 19th Avenue sanitary sewer pump station exists in this area. It's been there for about 70 years, and it's been functioning adequately. But when One North began being developed, there were some placeholder items put in by the engineer and the construction company to budget to account for odor control that they thought might be necessary in the future, and also some kind of wall or fencing for the station. Right now, there's kind of a rusty barbed wire fence that surrounds it. So as the project moved closer to completion, they came to us and they said, "What are your thoughts?" That particular pump station is fully functional at this time. It could last a good while longer. We don't have any reason to think that odor control is going to become a problem there, even with the existing station. So doing nothing would be one option, although when I say do nothing, the one thing that we would recommend is proceeding with some kind of wrought iron fence or wall, because It was one thing, it was out in the middle of nowhere, but now there's all this development coming in around it, and the station itself isn't unsightly, but I think for security and other reasons, we need to replace the fencing that's there, I think, for appearance's sake. So we would at least recommend that. But other than that, we could do nothing. Or we could consider that, given the age of the station, it could have a major problem sometime in the not-too-distant future. And so if we were going to think of replacing it or rehabilitating it, this would probably be a good time while the area is still under development and is not developed. And so we are asking you, and again, I am working now, we're working hard on getting your fiscal year 2020 budget together for presentation to you in mid to late August. And before I threw a big number in there, I wanted to have this discussion with you, see how you felt, if you have any feelings about whether we ought to try to, if we are going to either rehabilitate, we would say replace the station because the prices are virtually the same according to the estimates that we received. Or we could stand pat and just leave it as is and you know, hope that this existing station continues to operate for a good long time. Of the sanitary sewer stations that we have 3. This is probably in the worst shape. So with that, I'm asking for council to provide any thoughts or direction that you might have.
Worst case scenario, what happens if that pump station went down? Bang.
Well, there's 3 different pumps on there for redundancy.
In other words, we wouldn't be in panic mode. I mean, we get all those more people down there, and then is that going to be able to handle it? You know,
Yeah, that's been found to be, what the engineers have determined that we've got capacity.
And all 3 pumps are,
Capacity is not the issue.
all 3 pumps are working fine
At the time.
at the current time?
Yes.
2 questions on that. What would constitute a failure of a 3-pump station? Would all 3 have to go out, or?
Well, that would be very rare, unless there's a temporary power outage, but it would be disastrous.
Okay.
Sewage, the amount of sewage that goes through there's over 1 million gallons per day, and it would be backing up.
Okay. How big of a deal would it be to, once the area is developed, to get in there and replace the pump house? Because what I'm hearing is we may have up to 10 more years on this station. If we're replacing it with that lead time, still we're just kind of giving those years away.
And just to be clear, I threw 10 years in the memo, but
Yeah,
it
it's-
could be 20 years.
Could be
You know,
20,
yeah,
yeah.
we just don't know.
Right. So how big a deal would it be to get in and replace it after the area's finished developing?
They could keep it running and replace it, and then bypass the sewage from it while they're doing it. That's what they'd do if we went forward with building a new one, same thing.
But once the development's there, it's not a big issue to get in and do that. I mean, I'm hearing it's easier when there's obviously not apartments and hotels, but would it be extremely difficult to do it with those there?
I guess the question, where is this located exactly in relevance to One North?
So the apartments that are going in
Okay.
right now, if you went due east of there,
Okay.
kind of all the way up
Yeah,
against the
yeah,
tracks.
okay, I see it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Near the tracks.
Okay. So, I mean, to his question, I mean, it should still be accessible. I mean, we're not boxing it in right there.
No, I think we could do it. In the memo, we said maybe we think it's a good time to do something. I think I've rethought the recommendation since I wrote the memo. I don't know if this is the time, given everything that's going on, for us to make that major expenditure. I just, I hope that's not a gamble that goes wrong, but.
Well, there's
I'd ra-
3 pumps.
I'd rather see the $1 million go towards replacing some of these valves and getting some of this other issues currently working.
Well, those are different funds.
Yeah.
I would point that out. I
Yeah.
mean, one of the funds that's in pretty good shape is our water fund, and that's where we're having the problems at the
Yeah.
moment, but we do have the money to take care of it in that fund.
2 questions. One, do we know if we have a problem with odor? at this point?
We do not have any problem with odor that we're aware of. We asked that question too when they came to us, and I think they said, yeah, it was just a placeholder. We just thought maybe we ought to do, while they were putting together the construction budget. They
Okay.
thought it would be a good idea. But no, we are not aware of an odor problem now, nor do we have any reason to believe that there will
Okay.
be.
So question 2 is, if you did the fence, which I agree with, and you then wanted to come in and do something with the odor, if if you notice an odor later, would it be relatively easy to do that? Or should that be done prior to the fence going in?
Oh, it could still be done within the property. But what was proposed, that Eric was talking about is, would be submersible pumps. It'd be underground, and they wouldn't have a wet well. There'd be very little chance of ever having odors.
For the replacement?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the 100,000 or whatever for odor.
I honestly
Management.
There's
don't,
nothing you can do for odor control. We worked with the engineers, several meetings, and there's nothing we could do at this time, the way it works.
Okay, so I say go forward with the fence. That's my vote.
And,
Tom, did you have?
The pump station's 70-something years old, but all the pumps that old too?
No, when they go bad, we replace them. They go bad one at a time, generally. We pull them out. It takes a couple months that we put them in.
So the pumps there aren't 70-something years old, that's what I'm saying.
No, but they have to be repaired. They can't really be replaced because they're the only type of pumps that fit their retrofit into the pump station. They just have to be repaired and new motors put on.
Oh, okay.
I agree with the fencing aspect of it, but I think if we so choose to do a fence, I think we should fence all of our property and just not around the pump house.
well, there are solar cells in there now.
Okay.
So we would fence that in as well. Yes, sir. Yeah.
so,
Okay, so I think I'm hearing,
yeah. Do you need a motion to a budget amendment for 50,000 for the fence, or?
no, that's actually within the project budget. I don't
It's
know
within
that
the
I need a
budget, okay.
vote from you, and if you're all, if there's consensus on it. So I thank you for that, and we'll proceed accordingly.
It kind of looks to me like if it's going to cost $1 million to renovate it or $1 million to replace it, we're down the
Definitely if
line, we're not going to save any money.
Right, if it was
Yeah.
only those two options, we would definitely be recommending
Yeah,
the
yeah,
replacement option. But doing nothing is also an option in this case, and I think it might be the most prudent option. We'll proceed that way. Thank you.
Budget amendment, street repair materials, resolution number 19-044.
Thank you, sir. I'll call Mr. Hopper.
Well, as you know, almost every city in the region, county, has had poor streets after this harsh winter, a lot of freeze-thawing, and North Kansas City was hit hard. So we generally had $10,000 budgeted for patching repairs, pothole repairs, and other minor repairs, asphalt. We're already $3,000 over. We have more to do between now and October 1st, so we're asking for a budget amendment in the amount of $12,000 to pay the $3,000 we owe, which would leave us $8,513 to finish our work for the year.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 14.
Budget amendment, tree maintenance, resolution 19-045.
Thank you, sir. I'll call Mr. Hopper.
Tree maintenance, like many other things, is hard to predict each year. We keep increasing the budget for it, and sometimes we exceed. And this year's we're already exceeded. There was $106,000 in the budget for tree maintenance. Currently, the budget is minus $3,702. And there's trees that still are in need to be either removed or trimmed. So we're asking for a budget amount of $45,000 to pay the recent invoices and to assure adequate funding for the rest of this fiscal year for tree maintenance is there. If approved, the balance after would be $16,156.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 15.
Budget amendment, warning siren replacement, resolution number 19-043.
It's our last budget amendment tonight, I promise.
It's expensive to run a city.
At least this one's not Pat's, right?
That's right. I
Yeah, I'll
call on
take
the
this.
fire chief, Dave Vargas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The budget amendment before you tonight is, I think I mentioned it to you in our comments a couple, council meetings ago, that we had lightning strike, one of the storm sirens, previously in a storm. It took some time to get through our insurance, but we've gotten the replacement cost is gonna be $19,946, from Blue Valley Siren. The deductible for our insurance is $10,000, so the budget amendment is in the additional $9,900. If there's any additional costs, the insurance will pay for that as well. So the only thing that we're gonna be responsible for is the $10,000. The rest will come back to us as reimbursement from the insurance company. If you have any other questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Is there any warranties or anything on this siren? I know we can't predict lightning or what have you, but do they have like a general warranty on those, like anything we buy?
That siren was installed about the same time as the valves in
Oh, wow.
in the system.
I think we got our money's worth in
Allow
it.
a warranty.
Okay.
When we talked to them about it, that was, they stopped manufacturing that one in 1991, but they started in 1955, so
Wow.
there's,
Okay.
At least the sirens are above the ground.
but yes, there is warranty on them. I'm not sure what it is, but it's
It's-
1 year on some of them, and 5 years on other parts, so.
We'll move to approve if there's no other.
I got
Oh, question.
One other thing, is there an analysis done on whether this will raise the rate on the insurance? When it's something as close as, you know, the insurance deductible is less than half of the price of replacing it, would it increase what we have to pay for insurance, where that would render us, it'd be better to just pay the whole thing out of?
I don't think that would be a reason not to accept the insurance, no, sir. I mean, we're looking at an insurance rate increase probably next year. We've had a lot of claims, but any one claim doesn't really typically have that effect.
And this is in my neighborhood.
Move to approve then.
Okay.
Maybe you can donate.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll second or move to
Okay,
approve.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Number 16.
Approving accounts due and payable by the city through July 12th, 2019. Bill number 7421, ordinance number 9218.
First reading.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through July 12th, 2019.
I move that bill number 7421 be placed on second and final reading and passes ordinance number 9218.
Second.
Call roll.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing payment for certain accounts due and payable by the city through July 12th, 2019.
Mr. Herrick.
The upcoming city items of note report is in your packets. Other than that, sir, we have no comments tonight.
What?
Nice.
Jesse, I guess you're up.
Quick thing from me, we had a great block party on 31st. It was about 140 degrees outside that day. So everybody was huddled under two tents on the street. We had a good time, though. The other thing is with this big downpour we had that was like an hour long that morning, one of my neighbors reached out and said along 32nd, I don't know if she's sent an email, along 32nd, some cars were being flooded. The water got so high. I don't know if there's anything that we can do about that, about getting the water pumped off or removed. I know you said the pumps have been running since March. Is there anything from the city side? Because water was literally getting into people's cars.
So that was a torrential rain. We get those torrential rains here in Missouri now and then. If you were here, you know, you and I had some correspondence on this, and what I told you, and I'd be happy to say publicly, is we are very flat. We have a high water table. Because of that, we have very shallow storm sewers. And simply put, when there's that much water in that such a short space of time, they fill up, and then water has nowhere else to go. And was it higher than anybody's ever seen it? Perhaps. We've had people call us and complain that we've had people say, you people have to do a better job of keeping your storm sewers clean. That's the problem. No, that really isn't the issue. I don't believe there is really, I hate to say that there's no solution, but I really don't believe that there is anything that the city can, given our geography, can do. And Fortunately, those things are few and far between, but when a flash flooding event occurs in this area, North Kansas City will be flooded. The stormwater pumps are really not the issue. We also corresponded with you. That has to do with river level. They've been running since March and almost continuously for a few months now because of the high level of the river. So that is not really what makes or unmakes the storm drain. When the rain stops, typically we clear relatively quickly. We are sorry. I think folks who've lived here for a while, maybe you understand that this is going to happen from time to time. I don't believe that there really is anything that we can do.
Park in the back. Park in the alley.
If you're aware that there's going to be, I mean, I hate to say self-help, but, you know, if you know that, or hear that, you may consider that when you think about where your car is. Yeah.
I just had a couple of quick things. Are you done? Went to the Lion Eyes concert at Mackin Park. That was fun. Friday night concerts, summertime, and I did enjoy the block party also. What I realized is I don't know why we're having our block parties in the middle of summer. Why aren't we having our block parties like in the fall? So I noticed that 2 other areas are having a block party in the heat of summer.
Maybe we start voting them down.
Voting them down. We only approve block parties
Not
after
enough
September
beer,
1st.
it's not gonna be hot.
That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Couple of items, and Valerie, I'm glad you brought up the Lion Eyes concert. I also went, had a great time. It was brought to my attention, and I contacted Eric on this and Kelly, and maybe I didn't want to, since we were talking about the parks, I didn't want to bring it up since it was a separate related issue. Is that I'm been told that next year that possibly they're not going to do the Friday night concerts because they don't feel that it's possibly enough attendance or worth their while to do it. I'm not sure in years past, maybe they've had some smaller crowds. This year, in June, Arts in the Park obviously had a big crowd. July had a big crowd for the Lion Eyes concert. And the reasoning that Kelly had told me is that, you know, we're competing. Linden Square has one every Friday night. And that, you know, in years past, they hadn't had the attendance. They did have a new marketing campaign, and they ramped it up this year, and obviously that's paid dividends on the Friday night concerts. So my concern as a resident would be, you know, some people enjoy going to those concerts. I know that there's other breweries around town that have live music, but some people don't want to go to a brewery. This is a public event. It's a public service. And I can understand the parks wanting to be fiscally responsible as well, but I kind of wanted to open the discussion, or maybe we can discuss it in the future, about the Friday night concerts, if we still continue them, or if maybe we scale it back, or if we continue them. You know, we're always going to be competing against someone, and quite frankly, Mackin Park is way cooler than Linden Square, so. You know, is that maybe something for another?
Well, perhaps when we have our budget discussion, Ms. Vitipka, the Parks and Recreation Director, although it's funded out of Convention and Tourism, but it's run by Parks and Recreation. So when she advised me that from a staff viewpoint, in terms of the amount of time and effort it takes to put those concerts together versus what she reported was typical attendance, that she would recommend not continuing to do those concerts. I think we've done them for 2 or 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
So based upon that recommendation, I did not plan on including it in the Convention and Tourism Fund. We could, perhaps Ms.
She did
Vitipka
state
could
this-
comment on it directly during the budget process so that you could have the benefit of her thoughts and comments.
Or it could be included, and if we don't approve it, then we
Right.
don't approve it. You know, she did state that this year has been quite a bit different because of the marketing campaign, but, you know, I just throw it out there for other council member to think about and to see, you know, I'm one of many, so. The only other comment I have is that we'll just turn it over. We have a birthday boy on the dais here tonight. I won't say who it is. He's got an orange shirt on next to me, though. So I want to wish him a happy birthday. And that's it.
Well, thank you. I have no other comment.
I have no comment tonight either.
None for me, sir.
I know I was hitting on Public Works a little bit earlier, but I gotta thank them. They do get out after these big storms. They do clean up the branches. And I do see them out there trying to clear the drains. It is hard to keep up because then you have another storm and every other stick ends up right there 30 seconds later. So, and I know you guys do a lot of hard work and you get out there pretty quick. So thanks for that.
I don't got nothing. Money.
Consideration of a request to hold and recess into an executive session is requested by the city administrator to be held on this date on a real estate matter pursuant to Missouri Revised Statute, Section 610.0212.
So moved.
Second.
Councilmember Smith?
Yes.
Councilmember Pearman?
Yes.
Councilmember Clevenger?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Stefan?
Yes.
Councilmember Farr?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember DeLong?
Yes.